There are moments in history where two worlds that seem completely separate actually breathe the same spiritual air. Buddhism and Rastafari. One is born in the foothills of ancient India. The other rises from the reggae heartbeat of Jamaica, from the fire of resistance, freedom, and the Lion of Judah. And yet, when you strip away symbols, remove the flags, remove the languages, remove the borders, you find something shocking. They share the same spiritual skeleton, the same hunger for truth, the same rebellion against illusion, the same refusal to kneel to systems that distort the human mind, the same call to step out of Babylon, not a city, but a psychological prison. Tonight, we dive into the truth nobody teaches, nobody writes about, and nobody connects. How Buddhism and Rastafari are two paths pointing toward the same inner liberation. But before we begin, take a moment, slow your breath, and drop a comment letting us know where in the world you're listening from. Your presence helps grow this global circle of awakened minds. Welcome to Dharma Today, where we peel back every layer of illusion and enter the heart of what makes us free. Chapter 1. The Rebel Heart. Why Buddha and Rastafari begin the same way. Every spiritual tradition begins with a question, but Buddhism and Rastafari begin with a refusal to bow to the world as it is. Siddhartha Gautama walked away from a palace that tried to blind him with comfort, pleasure, status, and distraction. Rastafari rose from a people who refused to let Babylon define their identity, their destiny, or their mind. Different continents, different cultures, but the same instinct. There is something wrong with this world, and the truth is not found inside the system. The Buddha called it samsara, the endless spinning wheel of unconscious living. Rastafari calls it Babylon, the system of illusion, corruption, ego, and mental chains. Both are names for the same thing, a world that feeds you surface pleasures while starving your soul. A world that rewards the obedient, punishes the awake, and fears those who see clearly. Both realize the same truth. If you want to be free, you must step outside the story society gives you. The Buddha stepped out through meditation and insight. Rastafari steps out through livity, through natural living, through the refusal to worship the material world. Both paths begin by saying, I will not be controlled. Not by cravings, not by fear, not by governments, not by false gods, not by ego, not by illusions. Freedom begins at the moment of refusal. Chapter 2. Babylon and Samsara. Two words for the same prison. Listen carefully, because this is where the bridge becomes undeniable. In Buddhism, samsara is not a place. It's not hell. It's not a punishment. It's a mental loop that keeps you unconscious. You chase pleasure. You avoid pain. You cling. You resist. Your mind reacts to every thought as if it were truth. That is samsara. Now listen to how Rastafari describes Babylon, a system that blinds you with illusion, a world built on ego, greed, hierarchy, and distraction, a society that tries to own your mind before you even learn who you truly are. Babylon is samsara written in reggae. Babylon is ego spoken in the language of resistance. Both point to the same prison, the false world created by the mind. The Buddha taught that the way out is awakening, seeing clearly. Rastafari teaches that the way out is livity, living in natural alignment with the truth of who you are. The words differ, the rhythm differs, the culture differs, but the destination is the same. Freedom from illusion. Chapter 3. The Lion and the Lotus, two symbols of the same power. The lotus in Buddhism is the flower that rises from mud but remains untouched by it. The lion in Rastafari represents strength, royalty, inner sovereignty, and the refusal to bow. These symbols are not opposites. They are siblings. The lotus teaches, you can grow in a corrupt world and still remain pure. The lion teaches, you can walk through Babylon and not lose your soul. Both say, stand in your truth even in the middle of darkness. This is not softness. This is not passive spirituality. This is spiritual fire, the kind that wakes up entire generations. Buddhism expresses it as fearlessness, compassion, and wisdom. Rastafari expresses it as strength, resistance, and divine identity. The lotus is the calm face of truth. The lion is the roaring face of truth. But the truth is the same. Chapter 4. Meditation and Livity. paths to the same inner state. People think Buddhism is just meditation and Rastafari is just a lifestyle. But meditation and livity lead to the same internal experience: presence, simplicity, awareness, freedom from ego, oneness with life. Meditation in Buddhism teaches you to witness your thoughts instead of becoming them. Livity in Rastafari teaches you to live naturally, authentically, without letting Babylon poison your body or mind. Meditation clears the mind. Livity clears the life. Both remove the noise so you can hear what your soul has been whispering your entire life. And both lead you toward the same realization. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe awakening to itself. Chapter 5. Haile Selassie and the Buddha, two kings who taught freedom. Here's something almost nobody talks about. Haile Selassie's speeches and the Buddha's teachings mirror each other. Both speak against oppression. Both speak of equality. Both speak of inner sovereignty. Both speak of peace born from wisdom, not passiveness. Haile Selassie taught that until the philosophy that holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited, there will be war. The Buddha taught that hatred never ends through hatred. Love alone ends it. Different voices, different continents, same spiritual law. Selassie called for global awakening. The Buddha called for individual awakening. But both point to the same destination: freedom born from consciousness. Chapter 6. The Jah Within and the Buddha Within. This is where the connection becomes undeniable. Rastafari teaches that Jah is within you. The divine spark is not outside, it's inside. Buddhism teaches that the Buddha nature is already within you. Awakening is not something you achieve, it's something you uncover. Same truth, different name. Rastafari, you are a divine being. Buddhism, you are an awakened being. Rastafari, see the God within. Buddhism, see your true nature. Two paths. One revelation. Your freedom has always come from within. Chapter 7. The real enemy. Not Babylon, not samsara, but the ego. The Buddha said, when I conquered only myself. Rastafari says, no chains can hold a free mind. The real enemy is not the government, not the system, not the society. It's the ego that clings, the ego that fears, the ego that divides, the ego that hungers, the ego that believes the lie. I am separate. When you break that illusion, you stop being controlled. You become ungovernable from the inside. That is awakening. That is redemption. That is liberation. And that is the moment the lotus opens and the lion roars. Part 2. The deep roots of rebellion, awakening, and inner freedom. The more you look, the more the bridge between Buddhism and Rastafari stops being a coincidence and starts looking like a forgotten truth. Because both traditions are built on one foundation. You do not wake up by obeying the world. You wake up by seeing through it. Tonight, in part 2, we go deeper. Into identity. Into consciousness. Into liberation. Into the inner revolution both paths teach. Take a slow breath. Drop your shoulders. And if you haven't already, drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. Your presence strengthens this global circle of seekers. Let's continue. Chapter 8. The Ancient Warrior Within, Siddhartha and the Rastaman Spirit. People think the Buddha was passive, soft, gentle, a peaceful monk who simply meditated under a tree. They forget something crucial. He was a warrior on the inside, not with fists, not with swords, but with awareness sharp enough to cut through illusion. Rastafari embodies the same warrior energy, not a warrior of violence, a warrior of the soul. Listen to this. The Rastaman grows his locks not as fashion, but as a symbol of the strength within, an unbroken connection to the divine spark. The Buddhist shaves his head as a symbol of letting go, refusing illusion, ego, and attachment. Two opposite symbols. Same message. I will live in truth, not in illusion. And nothing Babylon says will tell me who I am. Siddhartha walked into the forest to face his mind. The Rastaman walks through Babylon with spiritual fire in his eyes. Both face the same enemy, the mind that clings to chains even when they're unlocked. Awakening begins with inner courage. Chapter 9. Ital and Right Livelihood, how both teach pure living. Rastafari teaches Ital livity, natural, clean, pure living that avoids chemicals, corruption, and anything that distorts the mind or body. Buddhism teaches right livelihood, a way of living that avoids harm, avoids intoxication of the mind, avoids actions that weaken clarity, compassion, or your inner truth. Different words, same teaching. Ital says, keep your temple natural so your spirit can rise. Buddhism says, keep your mind clear so wisdom can shine. Both understood something modern society forgot. A polluted life produces a polluted mind. A polluted mind produces suffering. Both paths offer a rebellion not of fists, but of purity. When the world is loud, you stay silent. When the world is chaotic, you stay centered. When the world is addicted, you stay awake. Ital and right livelihood are instructions for how to live in Babylon without becoming Babylon. Chapter 10, Dreadlocks and Shaved Heads. Two roads to the same liberation. It might seem strange that one path grows hair as a symbol of freedom and the other removes it. But look deeper. The Rastaman grows locks to reject Babylon beauty standards, Babylon identity, Babylon expectations. It is a symbol of sovereignty. I belong to truth, not your system. The Buddhist monk shaves his head to reject attachment to form, attachment to ego, attachment to self-image. It is a symbol of freedom. I belong to awakening, not appearance. Two opposite forms, same meaning. Both say, my identity is spiritual, not cosmetic. Both say, what the world values is not what I value. And this is the hidden bridge. The external expression differs, but the internal intention is identical. The lion and the lotus walk different paths, but both refuse to be defined by Babylon. Chapter 11, Rituals versus Reality. Why both traditions reject empty religion. This is the part that connects them more than anything else. Neither Buddhism nor Rastafari is built on blind belief. Neither asks you to worship ideas without understanding them. Neither tells you salvation comes from dogma, ritual, or memorizing sacred lines. Instead, both teach. If you want truth, you must experience it. Rastafari says, you don't join Rastafari. You become Rastafari by living in truth, standing in consciousness, and rejecting Babylon in the mind. The Buddha says, you don't believe Buddhism. You experience the Dhamma through meditation, wisdom, and direct insight. Both are experiential paths. Both are practical. Both are alive. This is why they attract rebels, seekers, and people who sense that life has deeper layers than what society teaches. Religion asks you to obey. Spirituality asks you to awaken. Buddhism and Rastafari ask you to awaken. Chapter 12, Sound as Spiritual Weapon, Reggae and Mantra. Here is a connection almost nobody notices. Both traditions use sound as a tool for liberation. Rastafari uses reggae, chant, Nyabingi drums, and vibration to elevate consciousness. Buddhism uses mantra, chanting, bells, and rhythm to calm the mind and open deeper awareness. The purpose is the same, to tune the mind to a higher frequency. Reggae pulls you out of Babylon with rhythm that breaks mental walls. Mantra pulls you out of samsara with sound that dissolves illusion. Reggae says, rise up. Mantra says, wake up. Different cultures, same spiritual technology. Chapter 13, Suffering and Liberation. Why both paths begin with pain. Buddhism starts with the first noble truth. Life contains suffering, dukkha, disconnection, unsatisfactoriness. Rastafari begins with a people who faced suffering, oppression, colonization, injustice, and still rose with dignity. Both understood the same truth. Pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning of awakening. The Buddha turned suffering into the path of enlightenment. Rastafari turned suffering into the fire of liberation. One found freedom in the mind. The other found freedom in identity, culture, and spiritual sovereignty. Both found freedom. This is the hidden law. If you don't run from suffering, you can transform it. If you face suffering consciously, you become unbreakable. The lotus grows from mud. The lion grows from struggle. Awakening is not born from comfort. It is born from fire. Chapter 14, The Illusion of Separation. The Buddha's teaching and Rastafari's oneness. Rastafari teaches I and I, the unity of all beings, the indivisible connection between you and the divine spark within all life. Buddhism teaches anatta and interdependence, the truth that self, is an illusion and everything is woven together in one living fabric. Two languages. Same revelation. I says, there is no me versus you. There is only consciousness recognizing itself. Buddhism says, there is no separate self. Everything arises together. This is not philosophy. This is awakening. Because when you see the world as I, or as interdependent, you stop harming others. You stop acting from ego. You stop fighting shadows. You stop living from fear. You begin living with compassion, with truth, with clarity, with love that grows because it is finally free. Chapter 15. The real liberation, freedom of mind, not geography. A hard truth is coming. And it's one that both the Buddha and Rastafari understood deeply. Escaping samsara is not about running into a forest. Escaping Babylon is not about moving away to another land. Because the real samsara is internal. The real Babylon is psychological. You can live in a monastery and still be trapped in ego. You can live in Jamaica, Ethiopia, America, and still carry Babylon in your mind. The Buddha said, the mind is everything. Rastafari says, free your mind and your life will follow. Same teaching, same liberation. Real freedom begins when you stop believing the illusions your mind creates. That moment, that inner flame, is the awakening both paths have always pointed toward. Part 3, Zion, Nirvana, Visions, Rebirth, and the Inner Lion. We now step into the deepest layers, the mystical layers, the symbolic layers, the psychological layers that most people overlook entirely. Because the moment you compare Buddhism and Rastafari in their depth, not in their surface forms, you find something astonishing. They describe the same spiritual map using different metaphors. Let's continue the journey. Take a breath. Settle in. And if you haven't yet, drop a comment letting us know where in the world you're listening from. Your presence grows this global circle of awakened minds. Chapter 16, Zion and Nirvana. The same destination in two languages. Zion and Rastafari is often misunderstood. People think it's a place, a country, a political location. But to the true seeker, Zion is a state of consciousness. A place where the mind is free, the heart is open, and the truth shines without obstruction. It is freedom from Babylon, freedom from illusion, freedom from mental slavery. Now listen to how the Buddha describes Nirvana, a state where craving ends, where ego dissolves, where all illusions fall away, where suffering ends because the mind is finally awake. Zion is liberation from Babylon. Nirvana is liberation from samsara. Babylon and samsara are the same prison. Zion and Nirvana are the same freedom. You are not traveling to a place. You are transforming your mind. Zion is not out there. It's in here. Nirvana is not far away. It's always been within you. Both traditions say, the temple is the mind. The journey is inward. Chapter 17, The Lightning of Insight. Rastafari Visions and Buddhist Enlightenment. There are moments in both traditions that are described in nearly identical language. Moments of sudden clarity that break your identity open. In Buddhism, these are called kensho, satori, or simply awakening experiences. Moments where the ego dissolves and the mind sees reality directly. In Rastafari, visions and spiritual insight are moments where Babylon's haze lifts and a person sees with the third eye or the heart's eye. Different symbols. Same phenomenon. The Buddhist sees the impermanence of all things and becomes free from craving. The Rastaman sees the divine presence within all beings and becomes free from Babylon. In both cases, a veil drops. A truth appears. A deeper consciousness awakens. These moments are not hallucinations. They are glimpses of what the world truly is when the ego steps aside. A flash of truth that changes everything. Chapter 18, Facing Temptation, Mara, and Babylon's Traps. If you want to know how deeply connected these two paths are, look at how they describe temptation. In Buddhism, Mara is the tempter, the force that tries to keep you asleep. Mara uses fear, desire, distraction, ego, doubt, pride, and illusion to trap your mind. In Rastafari, Babylon plays the same role, a system that tries to keep you unconscious through the same methods. Fear, distraction, addiction, ego, status, greed, identity traps, material illusions, mental chains. Mara tempts the Buddha with everything Babylon tempts the Rastaman with. Same tactics, same psychological enemy, different names. Both Buddha and the Rastaman say, you must conquer the enemy inside your mind. Because once you conquer the inner Mara, once you conquer the inner Babylon, the outer world loses all power over you. You become sovereign. You become free. You become unshakable. Chapter 19, Reincarnation and Return. Two versions of the same teaching. Now we move into the mystical backbone. Buddhism teaches rebirth, the idea that consciousness continues in different forms until awakening is realized. Rastafari teaches return, that the soul lives on, that spirit does not end, that ancestors remain present, and that spiritual identity is not destroyed by physical death. Different structures, same underlying principle. You are not merely a body. Consciousness continues. Spirit continues. Nothing is truly lost. In Buddhism, awakening means you break the cycle of rebirth. In Rastafari, liberation means you return to Zion, the natural state of being. Again, same liberation, different metaphors. What matters is not the structure, but the experience. Freedom from illusion leads to freedom beyond this life. Chapter 20, the herb, the breath, and the gateways of the mind. This part is sensitive, but essential. Across the world, seekers in every tradition have used tools to open consciousness. In Buddhism, the primary gateway is the breath. The breath slows the mind, relaxes the body, and reveals the truth beneath thought. In Rastafari, the herb plays a similar role when used consciously, ritually, and respectfully. Not as escape, but as insight. Both aim at the same thing. Quieter mind, higher awareness, freedom from Babylon or from samsara. Meditation deepens clarity. Herb deepens praise. NCE. One tool is internal, the other is botanical. But both are sacred when used with intention. Both can be misused when used unconsciously. The key is the same. Awareness determines whether a practice frees you or binds you. Chapter 21, Community, Sangha, and the Gathering of the Wise. Buddhism says you need the Sangha, a community of seekers who support your awakening. Rastafari says you need the brethren and sistren, a community of conscious ones who live in liberty and resist Babylon together. Both say, you cannot awaken alone. You can meditate alone, yes. You can pray alone, yes. You can walk your path alone, yes. But to sustain awakening, to rise above Babylon, to escape samsara, you need people who reflect truth back to you. People who remind you of your highest self. People who refuse to let you fall asleep. People who share the journey and strengthen the spirit. Awakening is personal, but it grows in community. Chapter 22, The Inner Lion. Courage as a spiritual weapon. This may be one of the deepest connections. In Rastafari, the Lion of Judah is not just a symbol of Haile Selassie. It is the symbol of your inner strength, your inner royalty, your inner dignity, your spiritual authority that Babylon cannot touch. In Buddhism, the lion is the symbol of fearless wisdom. The lion's roar is what the Buddha called the power of truth spoken from awakening. Two lions, same roar. Because awakening is not soft. It is not weak. It is not passive. It is courageous. It is fearless. It is the moment you stand firm in truth even when the world pushes back. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree as a lion in stillness. The Rastaman walks through Babylon as a lion in motion. Both say, walk with courage and illusion cannot touch you. Chapter 23, The Bridge Nobody Talks About, Ethiopia and Ancient Buddhism. Now we step into one of the most fascinating but rarely discussed connections. Ancient trade routes between India and East Africa carried not just goods, but ideas. There is historical evidence that early Buddhist merchants reached the Horn of Africa centuries before Christianity spread there. Some scholars suggest that early Ethiopian spirituality was influenced by Buddhist ideas long before Rastafari emerged. This doesn't mean Rastafari came from Buddhism. It means truth travels. And when truth travels, it appears again and again in different shapes. The lotus becomes the lion. Nirvana becomes Zion. Samsara becomes Babylon. The Dhamma becomes liberty. Different cultures, same awakening. Truth is always bigger than the walls religions build around it. Chapter 24, Why these parallels matter today. So why explore these bridges? Why look so deeply into two traditions that grew worlds apart? Because in a time when humanity is divided, when systems of power try to shape your identity, when the world wants you numb, distracted, fearful, obedient, both Buddhism and Rastafari offer a way out. A way to see clearly, a way to live consciously, a way to walk in truth, a way to reclaim your mind from Babylon, or samsara, or ego, or illusion. Two paths. One liberation. The lotus and the lion walk together. Part 4. The divine mystery, karma, destiny, and the final steps to spiritual sovereignty. We now enter the most sensitive, most powerful, and most unspoken layers of the connection between Buddhism and Rastafari. This is the part that most teachers avoid, most books ignore, and most people never explore. Because here is where identity dissolves, definitions fall apart, and the truth stands naked. Take a breath, drop the shoulders, and if you haven't yet, drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. Let's walk deeper. Chapter 25, The I Am Mystery. Jah and Buddha-Nature. This is the heart. Rastafari teaches, Jah lives within I and I, not as a distant deity, not as a cosmic ruler, but as a spark of divine consciousness inside every being. Buddhism teaches, all beings possess Buddha-Nature, not as a personality, not as a god, but as the intrinsic potential to awaken. Different languages, same revelation. Divinity is not outside you. Divinity awakens through you. The I Am of Rastafari is not ego. It is spiritual identity that cannot be controlled by Babylon. Buddha-Nature is not a self. It is pure consciousness untouched by illusion. When you see the parallel, you understand. Jah equals awakened consciousness inside you. Buddha-Nature equals divine clarity inside you. Same flame, different names. Because truth, when deep enough, stops caring about labels. Chapter 26. Is consciousness God? Buddhism and Rastafari's silent meeting point. Here comes the paradox. The one that confuses people because it breaks theology and breaks philosophy. Rastafari says Jah is within. Buddhism says the self is empty. How can these both be true? Here's the secret. When Buddhists say empty, they mean empty of ego, illusion, stories, identity. When that emptiness is realized, what remains? Pure consciousness, pure presence, pure awareness. And what does Rastafari call that? Jah. Buddhism does not contradict Rastafari. It describes the same truth without using the word God. Buddhism says, your mind becomes free when illusion ends. Rastafari says, your mind becomes free when Jah rises within you. Two metaphors. Same awakening. You can call it God. You can call it Buddha-Nature. You can call it consciousness. You can call it the divine spark. You can call it I and I. But the experience is always the same. A mind without chains. Chapter 27. Karma and Judgment. Two systems, one universal law. People assume karma and divine judgment have nothing in common. But they do. Because both are rooted in the same idea. Your actions shape your destiny. Your state of consciousness shapes your path. In Buddhism, karma is not punishment. It is the natural echo of your mind and actions. In Rastafari, divine justice is not revenge. It is the natural alignment or misalignment with truth, love, and righteousness. Both say, you cannot escape the consequences of the state of your mind. Karma equals the law of cause and effect. Judgment equals the law of alignment. When you act from ego, you create suffering. When you act from truth, you create liberation. Two frameworks. One reality. Because whether you call it karma, judgment, or simply psychological cause and effect, the law does not change. The universe remembers what your ego forgets. Chapter 28. Prophecy, Destiny, and Awakening. The mythic dimension of both paths. Rastafari is soaked in prophecy. Visions of liberation, promise of returning to Zion, the rise of consciousness in a dark age. Buddhism also speaks of prophecy, the future Buddha Maitreya, the decline of the teachings, the renewal of wisdom, the turning of the wheel. Both traditions say, humanity cycles through ages of ignorance and awakening. Both say, there are moments when consciousness rises across the world. Both say, you were born in this era for a reason. not to be a passive observer, not to drown in illusion, not to serve Babylon or Samsara, but to awaken and to help awaken others. Rastafari calls this rising in consciousness. Buddhism calls this turning the wheel of Dhamma. You are not here by accident. You are here because your soul recognized the urgency of this era. Chapter 29, Ego Death, the Real Emergence of the Lion. The greatest misunderstanding is that Rastafari celebrates identity while Buddhism dissolves it. But the deeper layer is this. Neither path supports the egoic identity. Rastafari removes the slave identity, the Babylon identity, the colonial identity, the false identity forced by systems of power. It is ego death through reclaiming truth. Buddhism removes the illusion of self, the ego that clings, craves, and suffers. It is ego death through dissolving illusion. One removes ego by reclaiming spiritual identity. The other removes ego by dissolving mental identity. Different strategies. Same liberation. When the ego drops, what emerges is fearlessness, compassion, wisdom, truth, freedom, the lion, the Buddha, the I am, the awareness beyond form. The person you were falls away. The being you truly are stands up. Chapter 30, Babylon, Samsara, and the Matrix, all words for one trap. Babylon is the system that blinds the mind. Samsara is the cycle that blinds the mind. The Matrix, in modern culture, is the illusion that blinds the mind. All three describe a world built of unconscious patterns that keep you asleep. Babylon distracts you with media, hype, fear, division, addiction, ego, identity politics, endless entertainment. Samsara distracts you with pleasure, pain, craving, aversion, endless mental loops. The Matrix distracts you with simulated reality that you mistake for truth. Same trap, different vocabulary. And both Rastafari and Buddhism teach. You escape not by running away, but by waking up. Waking up is rebellion. Waking up is liberation. Waking up is the moment you stop believing the world's story and begin living your own. Chapter 31, The Last Step, Spiritual Sovereignty. This is the point both traditions aim for. Not obedience, not ritual, not belief, not fear, not dogma. Sovereignty of the mind, of the spirit, of the soul. The Buddha teaches, be a lamp unto yourself. Rastafari teaches, stand firm in I and I. Both tell you, you must become your own authority, your own guide, your own liberator, your own truth. Not in arrogance, in consciousness. Because the awakened mind cannot be colonized by illusion. The conscious mind cannot be enslaved by Babylon. The sovereign soul cannot be manipulated by fear. When you reach sovereignty, your life becomes one with truth, one with love, one with consciousness, one with the divine spark that was always within you. That is the final destination. That is the awakening. That is Zion. That is Nirvana. That is I and I. That is Buddha-Nature. One freedom. Many names. Part 5. The Path of the Lotus and the Lion. Walking awake in a sleeping world and the 7 practices of liberation. We now enter the practical side. The part that most spiritual systems forget to teach. It's one thing to understand how Buddhism and Rastafari connect. It's another thing entirely to live it. To walk in Babylon without becoming Babylon. To move through samsara without clinging to samsara. To live awake in a world that sleeps with its eyes open. This section is where the teachings become your day-to-day power. Take a deep breath. Feel your spine relax. Feel your awareness sharpen. And take a moment to comment below where in the world you're listening from tonight. Let's continue. Chapter 32, The Lotus and the Lion. 2 metaphors, one warrior's path. If Buddhism is the lotus and Rastafari is the lion, what happens when you put them together? You get a path that is still but strong, gentle but fearless, pure but bold, patient but unbreakable, humble but sovereign. The lotus rises above the mud without resisting it. The lion walks through the wild without fearing it. Together they teach. Rise above the world and move fearlessly through it. This is the awakened warrior. Not violent, not aggressive, not ego-driven, but rooted, centered, clear, blazing with inner fire. The Buddha teaches the mind to be free. Rastafari teaches the spirit to be free. Put them together and you get the awakened, sovereign human being. Chapter 33. How to walk awake in a sleeping world. When you begin to awaken, the world does not immediately change, but your perception of it does. And that can feel lonely at first. You see illusions others defend. You see truth others fear. You see systems people cling to because they don't want to question what they have always believed. Buddha unfiltered truth. Most humans do not actually want freedom. They want comfort disguised as freedom. But the Buddha and the Rastaman are not built for comfort. They are built for truth. So how do you walk awake in a sleeping world? You walk like the lotus, untouched by the surrounding mud. You walk like the lion, confident in your inner sovereignty. You walk like consciousness itself, aware, compassionate, clear, unafraid, unshaken. And you remember, awakening is not isolation, it is illumination. Your presence becomes a lighthouse for others still navigating the fog. Chapter 34. The 7 Practices of Liberation, Buddha plus Rastafari combined. Here are the 7 combined practices that merge both traditions into one living path of freedom. Use them, test them, live them, and watch your life transform. 1. Stillness, meditation/silence/grounding. The Buddha teaches meditation. Rastafari teaches grounding. Same action, the art of letting the mind settle so clarity can rise. Sit, breathe, witness, return. Even 5 minutes becomes a revolution. 2. Natural livity, purity/simplicity/awareness. Rastafari teaches ital, pure, natural living. Buddhism teaches right livelihood, ethical, mindful living. Together, they form a path of simplicity, clarity, conscious choices, intentional life. This destroys 90% of Babylon's influence. 3. Truthful speech, lion's roar/right speech. The lion's roar is the power of truth spoken without fear. Right speech is the power of kindness spoken with wisdom. Combined, they create the rule. Speak truth without cruelty. Speak compassion without weakness. Words become medicine, not weapons. 4. Inner sovereignty, identity beyond systems. Rastafari removes false identities forced by society. Buddhism removes false identities constructed by ego. Together they reveal. Your identity is consciousness, not culture, not fear, not story. This gives you unshakable confidence. 5. Compassion and oneness, I and I/interbeing. Rastafari teaches I and I. All beings carry the divine spark. Buddhism teaches interbeing. All beings are connected. Together they form the deepest truth. There is no separation, only one consciousness expressed through many faces. Harm dissolves. War dissolves. Fear dissolves. 6. Watchfulness, mindfulness/discernment. The Buddhist calls it sati. The Rastaman calls it watching Babylon with a sharp eye. Both are about staying awake to the world's illusions. Watch your thoughts. Watch your reactions. Watch your triggers. Watch your desires. Because awareness is the sword of liberation. 7. Courage, lion heart/fearlessness. This is essential. The Buddha taught fearlessness. Rastafari teaches the lion heart. Without courage, truth remains unused. With courage, every truth becomes power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is clarity that rises higher than fear. With courage, you walk like a lion and sit like a lotus. Chapter 35. What the modern world gets wrong about spirituality. Most modern spirituality is soft, commercial, and watered down. But both Buddhism and Rastafari carry a fire that modern spiritual culture avoids. They challenge power. They defy illusion. They question systems. They refuse to worship ego. They do not obey Babylon. They do not kneel to fear. This is not feel-good spirituality. This is liberation. Modern spirituality says, calm down. Rastafari says, rise up. Buddhism says, wake up. Both are needed. Both are powerful. Both shake the foundations of a world built on illusion. Chapter 36. Your life as the path, turning every day into awakening. You don't need a monastery. You don't need a temple. You don't need a mountain cave. You don't need Ethiopia, India, or Jamaica. Your life is the monastery. Your heart is the temple. Your breath is the mantra. Your awareness is the teacher. Every moment is an opportunity to break one more illusion. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you breathe, the way you choose. the way you respond, the way you love, the way you live. Liberation is not an event. It is a rhythm, a steady rising of consciousness within you. Chapter 37. The Reunion. The Lion Meets the Lotus. Imagine this. A Buddhist monk and a Rastaman sitting together under a single tree. One in saffron robes. One with majestic locks. Different worlds. Different cultures. Different rhythms. But if they speak long enough, they will find they share the desire to rise above illusion. The desire to free the mind. The desire to live in truth. The desire to embody love. The desire to end suffering. The desire to break Babylon. The desire to dissolve ego. The desire to awaken. They will realize, we were never different. Only our symbols were. The lotus and the lion are two expressions of the same consciousness. And tonight, you carry both. Part 6. The final realization. You are the lotus. You are the lion. We now arrive at the final stretch of our journey. The place where all threads come together. Not as ideas. Not as theories. Not as comparisons. But as direct realization. Every teaching, every metaphor, every symbol. The lotus, the lion, Zion, Nirvana, Babylon, Samsara, I and I, Buddha-Nature, Jah, all point toward one thing. Your true nature. Awakening is not found in a temple, not in a doctrine, not in a single tradition, not in one vocabulary. Awakening is found in your consciousness the moment illusion falls away. Take a breath. And let truth settle. This is the conclusion both the Buddha and Rastafari reach. The world doesn't need you to convert. It needs you to wake up. Chapter 38. The illusion breaks. What you are not. The Buddha said that liberation begins when you realize what you are not. Rastafari says liberation begins when you strip away every identity Babylon forces upon you. Different teachings. Same liberation. So let us name what you are not. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your trauma. You are not your conditioning. You are not your status, your job, your possessions, your skin color, your appearance. You are not the story the world writes for you. You are not the image the ego projects. You are not the illusions the mind believes. You are not the role you perform for society. All of that belongs to Babylon. All of that belongs to Samsara. All of that can fall away. And when it does, what remains? Consciousness. Presence. Awareness. Buddha-Nature. Jah Within. Different names. Same essence. Chapter 39. The truth reveals what you truly are. You are the witness to all thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. You are the awareness behind the emotions, not the emotions themselves. You are the sky, not the clouds. You are the ocean, not the waves. You are the fire, not the smoke. You are the awakened consciousness experiencing a human life. The Buddha calls that your original mind. Rastafari calls it your divine spark. I and I. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is direct truth. You are not a seeker. You are the source. You are not trying to become divine. You are trying to remember that you already are. Chapter 40. Babylon falls inside you first. People think that Babylon is a city, a system, a government, or a force outside. But the deepest teaching of Rastafari and Buddhism is this. The real Babylon is internal. It is the fear that controls you. The doubt that blinds you. The ego that tricks you. The attachments that imprison you. The illusions that seduce you. Babylon collapses the moment you stop believing your own false stories. Samsara collapses the moment you stop clinging to ego's illusions. Liberation begins inside your mind long before it appears in your outer life. And once you conquer the inner Babylon, the outer one cannot control you anymore. Chapter 41. The return to Zion is the return to yourself. Most people misunderstand Zion. Zion is not a place. Zion is not a nation. Zion is not geography. Zion is consciousness, a place where the mind is free, where the heart is open, where the soul stands sovereign, where illusion dies and truth rises. Nirvana means the same thing, a blowing out of illusion, a clearing of the mind, a liberation from the fire of craving. 2 words, same destination. When you wake up, when you see clearly, when you detach from illusion, when you reclaim your inner sovereignty, you return to Zion. You taste Nirvana. You live awake. Not someday. Not in prophecy. Not after death. But now. Chapter 42. The lion's courage and the Buddha's clarity. The 2 wings of freedom. To fly, a bird needs two wings. To awaken, a human being needs two qualities: clarity and courage. The Buddha gives you clarity, the ability to see through illusion. Rastafari gives you courage, the strength to stand in truth even when Babylon pushes back. Without clarity, courage becomes anger. Without courage, clarity becomes passiveness. Together they create an unstoppable, awakened force. A human being who cannot be manipulated by illusion anymore. This is what the Lotus teaches. This is what the Lion teaches. You need both. Chapter 43, Your Path Now, Becoming the Awakened One in Your World. Do not wait for the world to change. The world will always be a mixture of Babylon and Zion, Samsara and Nirvana, illusion and truth. Your awakening cannot depend on external conditions. It depends on your internal courage to live consciously in every moment. You become the lotus by rising above the mud. You become the lion by refusing to bow to illusions. So how do you walk forward now? With awareness, with simplicity, with compassion, with fearlessness, with clarity, with sovereignty, with I and I as your foundation. Because when you awaken, you do not escape the world. You illuminate it. Chapter 44, The Final Blessing of the Buddha and the Lion. Close your eyes if it feels right. Let the breath settle. Let the heart soften. Let the mind open. This blessing is not religious. It is consciousness speaking to consciousness. May you see through illusion with the eyes of the Buddha. May you walk through the world with the courage of the lion. May your mind remain clear as the still lake of Nirvana. May your spirit remain strong as the fire of Zion. May no Babylon, internal or external, hold your mind again. May you rise like the lotus from the mud of any struggle. May you roar like the lion when truth calls your name. May the light within you reveal itself fully in this lifetime. You are consciousness. You are truth. You are the awakened one. You are the lotus. You are the lion. You are I and I. You are Buddha-Nature. Walk in freedom. Walk in truth. Walk awake.